Let me show you something, though, that this happened in Iran, and there was a massacre at a mosque. Here, I'll show you the story from The Guardian, and look at how they frame it. So, gunmen killed at least 15 people at a Shia shrine in Shiraz, okay? And so you have 15 people killed, and I think it's about 40 people wounded, right? Now, they say that the attackers were described as Takfiri terrorists by Iranian media, which The Guardian says is a label often used by officials in predominantly Shia Muslim Iran to refer to hardline armed Sunni Islamist groups. What does the sentence mean? Why is it a label that's used predominantly by Shia Muslim Iran? No, it's not. That's just how you describe these groups. Takfiri look, I'll explain something. A kafir in Arabic is a non-believer, like an infidel. And takfiri, you can see it has almost the same root, right? So it's a group. They're usually, so we're talking in this case about armed groups like ISIS, who consider other Muslims to be they're not believers enough, right? They're not holy enough. It's like holier than thou, basically. It's that kind of mentality, right? So takfiri groups like ISIS will kill other Muslims because they say those Muslims are not Muslim enough, which is ridiculous, right? And that's not a term that's used mostly by Iran. That's nonsense. You use that term in English even when to describe groups like ISIS. That's just what you use because that's a characteristic of those groups. They specifically target other Muslims. This is, you see why this annoys me, because they manipulate the language and the terms to make you think that no, the people who just killed 15 Muslims in a mosque, they don't listen to the Iranian propaganda calling them takfiri. They're different, right? That's just an Iranian term. Like they're trying to denigrate the meaning of it and say that and kind of dismiss it, like, oh, that's just what the Iranians say. No, it's not what the Iranians say. That's what everyone with half a fucking brain cell says when talking about these groups, because that's what they are. And guess what? You know who claimed responsibility? ISIS. This is from Reuters today, October 26th, from 3 hours ago. Islamic State claims responsibility for shrine attack in Iran. And that's exactly what Iran said. Iran was saying these guys are takfiri groups. It was ISIS and their allies in Iran who did this. And of course, the Western media dismiss it and make up all sorts of theories, and then turns out that it's true. There are several children who are dead. Do you think the Western media are going to cry about those children who we can actually prove were killed? And who did it? ISIS is publicly claiming responsibility. You think Tim Sebastian and all of these anchors on BBC are going to weep now for those Iranian children who you can prove were murdered? They don't care. They don't care about anyone in Iran. Children, women, men, they don't give a crap. They are fine with starving Iranian women and children. They're fine keeping medicine from that country. And this is what they do. They it starts with taking advantage of protests, and then it escalates to armed attacks. And then they send the country into chaos. This is exactly the same game plan they used in Syria. It's just protests, and then you have security forces being killed, and then it goes from that to people being killed in groups by gunmen with blasts, and then it just becomes a war. And ISIS, I don't need to tell you guys, ISIS is a creation of the West. You can look at Al-Qaeda in the Soviet Afghan war. Who was behind that? It's the CIA. And ISIS, when ISIS came into being from the power vacuum that was created by the U.S. invasion in Iraq and the U.S. trying to get rid of the Syrian government, that's an American creation. That's a British creation, which they have funded and armed covertly. Anybody inside Syria who is against the government, they will give them weapons and give them logistical support and intelligence, no matter who they are. Al-Qaeda, ISIS, it does not matter. This is irrelevant to them. So you have a Western creation killing Iranians at a shrine while they're praying, and at the same time, the Western media is in full, is in full action, making up stories about Iran that you just can't trust because they have a track record of doing that in other countries.